So just as an introduction, the legislative process to date, the Plant Breeders Bill and the Plant Improvement Bill is intended to be passed by the National Assembly in 2013. Now, these bills are intended to replace two acts which have been in place since 1976, and the acts have the same names: the Improvement Act and the Plant Breeders' Rights Act. The National Portfolio Committee has already gone through it, so the stage that we're at now is that the National Council of Provinces has to approve these two bills. And that is why in our respective provinces we're engaging the provincial legislatures, because it's for them to now go back to Parliament and say, as the Eastern Cape, we vote for or we vote against these bills. In our province, one hearing was held in May 2017. Just to get a sense, who of you attended that meeting? 3 people. And you were probably 3 of the 10 who were there, 10 or so who were present. The rest of us either didn't know or we were unable to attend because of where we're located within the Eastern Cape province. That has major implications for the constitutional duty that the provincial government has to ensure that the public participates in lawmaking. They're not doing us a favor. It's our right, our constitutional right to participate. But this public participation, what does it mean? That they can advertise in some anonymous newspaper. None of us see the ads. None of us hear it on the radio. And they have it in one place. In a province the size that our province is, it was held in Beshu. Yes. Nowhere else. That calls into question how public was the participation that they are going to claim they engaged in. But we'll deal with that. We'll deal with it some more. So both these bills, let me deal with the Plant Breeders Bill first. When you look at the bill, attached at the back is what's called a memorandum, basically where the department explains why they're bringing this bill to Parliament to become a law. So their basic explanations is, they say they have to improve competitiveness of the agricultural sector. Big red flags for what that means. Competitiveness for who? Where? Internationally. It's not about South Africa. It's not about us at all. They also say that they have to pass these laws because they have to give effect to South Africa's international agreements on trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights. What do those intellectual property rights want? They want to protect the rights of multinational commercial seed companies. We mustn't fool ourselves about what our international obligations are. They also say they absolutely have to pass these laws because the 1976 acts don't have strong enough penalties. And there's been so much infringement of these commercial companies' rights. So our democratic government has to pass these laws because they need to increase the penalties, the punishment. The underlying reason, they say, is because a whole load of commercial farmers have been infringing the rights of other commercial seed farmers. And we must be punished. But that's what the Act is going to do. they're extending the rights. Currently, depending on which rights you have as a breeder, which plant we're talking about, because there's different categories. You can have a 20 or a 25-year right. That's your exclusive right. No one can use those seeds without your authority. Those are the rights that commercial seed companies have. We are choosing in this bill to extend those rights to 30 years. Do we have an international obligation to do it? No. In fact, the attempt to say that we have to oblige with our international agreements is a false one, because even the most draconian of the international agreements don't provide for 30-year rights. But we're choosing to do it. I don't know who we're paying in advance. According to the memorandum attached to the plant, the one I was talking about is the Plant Breeders' Rights Bill. Moving on to the Plant Improvement Bill. Basically, they say they need to align the Constitution of South Africa, and therefore they need this Plant Improvement Act bill. I was unable to find why alignment was needed. Why do we have to penalize small farmers with criminal punishment? Which constitution are they talking about? One for the future, where we don't have the right to environment, where we don't have the right to do what we want with our property. The one that we don't have the right to have food. It's not the current constitution that they need to align it with. They also say they need to regulate the quality of plants and seeds. And they say it's necessary to have this bill so that they can improve existing commercial production, as well as the participation of new entrants. Who are these new entrants? We have to ask. And they have to facilitate smallholder farmings to make the transition to mainstream agriculture. What is mainstream agriculture? They're not even hiding it from us. But they expected us not to see it. I'm going back to the Plant Breeders' Rights Bill to identify what we consider, and I'm sure you will too, the problems are with this bill. I touched on some of them, and I'll keep repeating because I think the way in which the acts have been written and the session is intended for us to engage them, and repeating them allows for them the provisions to get into our bloodstreams and hopefully make us sufficiently angry so that we don't stop struggling to ensure that these bills do not become laws. Basically, the Plant Breeders Bill intends to push out the seed of small farmers, which small farmers have for centuries saved using indigenous and ecological methods. Once we start using commercial seeds, we're going into a monoculture, which is favored by the commercial seed companies, that requires irrigation, that's expensive, that requires harmful pesticides and chemical fertilizers. The entire bill, if you can go through any and every one of the provisions, is intended to create a monopoly for commercial seed companies at every single level. I've already told you about the extension of their rights to 30 years. The bill also extends their right to cover all crops and genes. So that means Mfeno could, in the near future, be sold at Woolworths as version 2 of Rocket. And if we found growing it, we're breaking the law. Because there's no restriction on who can get what rights. dealt with the criminal offense, just to say that if you're found guilty, saving seeds, exchanging seeds, sowing seeds, you would be subject to a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison. But it doesn't end there. So let's say you planted millies or whoever has that right to those seeds. It's the state's obligation to ensure that you don't break the commercial seed companies' rights. So the state will do the monitoring. They arrest you. You subject to a prison sentence of 7 years. And the company says, oh yes, and by the way, you sold those mealies, didn't you? You have to pay us royalties, not only for the harvest that you got from the seeds you used, which you were not supposed to use because we didn't give you authority. You made cornbread with those mealies, and you sold that cornbread. So we're also entitled to part of the profit of the cornbread that you sold. Another example, if I grow pomegranate